Good afternoon to everybody joining us from Europe, but also good morning and good evening to everybody else around the world. Thank you to each and every one for being here with us today. We are very pleased to be able to welcome those of you that have been with us for a long time now, as well as those who are new to the Active House Alliance. Before you sits a proud chairman. I'll just share my screen to be able to show you a few things. Today marks our 10th anniversary, and we're happy to be able to host it together with all of you. Active House. And just hope until the screen wants to change. Just wait a little bit. Still no response. Sorry for that. It's a little bit slow. I still don't have anything here. There we go. It's been 10 years since Active House was founded, and it's always been an ambitious, holistic concept. But gradually, it has proven to be future-proof. In those 10 years, the world has changed dramatically. Just think of the health and comfort aspects that we talk about within the Active House. And everybody, when we first talked about it 10 years ago, many of the reactions were quite astonished. They said, "What are you talking about? Circularity, indoor air quality, it's all about energy efficiency. It's not about all the things you're talking about." But along the way, these strong basic principles we have in the Active House, like comfort, energy, and the environment, that we worked out very in detail, prove to be the very essence of building. When we see what COVID has done in the last couple of years to increase the awareness about indoor air quality, not only in public buildings or at work, but also at home due to remote working or working remotely from home. To the environment, the planet is warning us. We have the climate change, we have overheating problems, we have natural disasters. People are starting to talk more about circularity to keep everything going. Also, the part on energy efficiency. It's always been a very important part, but the push for energy efficiency and sustainability is ever ongoing. We're trying to reduce our fossil fuels consumption. We're trying to reduce our CO2 emissions or the footprint. We are seeing a renovation wave coming up. And at the same time, we see that more and more data is gathered on buildings. The more we gather data, the more it becomes clear that there's a gap between the calculated or simulated information versus the measured energy consumption, and that the user is considered the uncontrollable factor. We're not trying, like many other concepts, making something that is only simulated. No, it's real measured performance. And as it happens, it's clear that the Active House concept already took into account all of these elements. We're all still facing a huge challenge. If we're going to provide a viable future for our children and mankind, we must act now on many levels. Buildings account for a large portion of the CO2 emissions, and Active House offers a working concept that is fit for people and planet. More and more people are discovering our concept, and I believe that this is the reason why the Active House Alliance is growing so fast now. We've grown from an international to a worldwide community, and I thank you for that. The Active House principles are not carved in stone. They allow a certain flexibility in designing a healthy and comfortable indoor climate with a minimal environmental impact. It inspires, it leaves room for imagination and innovation, but above all, it allows for you to create. So, switching back. That is all what I wanted to tell you for my welcome. We are now ready to move on to the more interesting part of the session of our celebration. But before we move on to that, we must first establish the housekeeping rules for the participants. Nadesh, can you bring these online so that everybody can see these?
I'm going to do that. So thank you all for joining. And as Yves mentioned, just a few housekeeping. Some of you may not know the platform. So this is when you entered the platform, you could see tables. Those are tables that you can join in the networking lounge. Those are tables you can join when we've got our breaks, and you can discuss with your peers. We've set out tables depending on your category of people, so academics, architects, designers. So please feel free to join one of the tables when the session is on pause. When we have a break, you just choose the table, you click on join, and then you can talk to the persons that are at the same table. When we start the next session again, you will automatically join the session, so no worries, you won't miss anything. So when the session is on, like right now, what can you do? So you can raise your hand. Raise your hand means that you would like to interact with the speaker and the host, and if the speaker and the host choose to let you on, you will be on stage. So you will be on camera and seen by all of the other participants. You can also ask a question. And you can see that on the left right hand side, you've got the Q&A, and if there's a question, you can also upvote a question if you find this question interesting and you want it to be replied to. You can of course react with emojis, which is also always very nice, and you can chat either privately or to the whole audience. And I see some of you already had saw that, had seen that. So if you have technical issues, you've got a question mark in the bottom right corner of your screen, and you will enter the Airmeet support, and they will help you. You can also send a chat to my colleague Alberto, and he will try as much as possible to help you with this. I just have one last slide, which is the QR code to the e-card. So I will show it around later again, but if you have 5 minutes to scan this QR, go on the e-card and send best wishes to the Active House Alliance. That'd be great. Thank you, and I'm over. We'll stop sharing my slides.
Thank you, Nadesh, for that information. Quite useful. And that being said, I would like to give the floor now to the founding fathers of the Active House Alliance, Michael Rasmussen and Kurt Emil Eriksen. Over to you guys.
I will just wait for Michael Rasmussen to give the first words.
Thank you, Yves. There I was. Thank you, Yves, and thank you for this opportunity to go down memory lane. I think this successful alliance has many founding fathers and mothers, and I'm very honored on behalf of Kurt and myself to be representing that group of people. You may think that I left and forgot about the Active House Alliance when I left Velox a few years ago, but secretly, in the meantime, I've actually been a part owner of one of your most junior members, a company called Climate, it's a prop tech who work with user-adapted indoor climate intelligence and comfort. So I can follow what you're doing, and luckily as well follow in the public arena what is going on and what is growing, which is very nice and very needed, I should say. Also, for my part, congratulations on turning 10 years old. It's a big achievement. It's not easy to build an organization like this, but it was founded on a really strong need to do something about the situation. For those of us who date back to the start of the Alliance and perhaps also in that respect to the years leading up to the Alliance, it was with a background. It was on the back of 30 or 40 years of U-value Olympics situation where there were an increasing demand on buildings, an increasing demand on the components entering buildings. From a Velux point of view, we were worried about a future which contained 3 and even 4 layer windows that didn't actually end up suiting the need for light in your building and certainly neither for vision out of your building. It was also a situation with a high complexity in the demands on air tightness. It was a situation where some of the new houses being overheated in the warm season, and actually starting to see a deterioration of the indoor climates. So I suppose you can say that the Active House Alliance was built on a fundamental question on whether a building is a people container or an energy container, if you look at it like that. And going back to the discussions that took place in the first symposiums that were leading up to the founding of the Alliance, it was also a heated room. It was inspired, excited discussions, and though not being a technician myself, I think one of the memories I have is the distinct feeling of being in the room, being in a place where something important actually happened. And I think that when we look at what the Active House Alliance has become, that is quite obvious, because it's developed from a few people's visions and concerns into something that the world is embracing and needing, which is also what has taken place when we talk about how it has developed and impacted legislation. Kurt, as I suppose that's also perhaps on in your vision to follow how that has developed, because that has been a very unique development over the 10 years.
Was that a handing over, or
It was a little bit of a handing over, and perhaps bouncing back and forth when it comes to going forward now.
Yeah, but talking about legislation and political ambitions, I think I would also like to remind ourselves that when we started up it was in 2008. It was exactly in the period where the European Commission came out with their 2020 target, which was 20% CO2 reduction, 20% more renewable energy, and 20% reduction of the energy use. And that was a kind of a starting point, because I think I recall that we said we want to show how buildings can look in 2020 when we have reached this target. And then The Commission also worked with the revision of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, and they introduced something which was called nearly zero energy building. We all know what it is today, or maybe we still don't know what it means because it has different interpretations, but they introduced it at that time. And one of the things we also said was that we would like to show how a building can be a nearly zero energy building. And that was the starting point. And as you mentioned, Michael, one of the fears was that we were only looking at the energy part of the discussion, that we did not focus on indoor comfort and indoor climate in buildings. It was not mentioned at all, and we were also a little bit afraid of a lack of discussions about the CO2 emissions. So it was only energy efficiency at that time. And I think that was one of the that's at least what I remember as one of the starting points, because we also had some good dialogues with the Commission, and we had I recall the Commissioner Connie Hedegaard on stage when we launched our alliance as well, and we got a good political support, and they were listening to us, as I recall it. And if I look at legislation today, then it will be easy for me to say that we were in front of what was going on, because today the Energy Performance of Building Directive include health in buildings, so that is now included into the directive. It could of course be mentioned much better as what it is, but it is now a part of the directive. I think we often hear commissioners and others talking about health in buildings. So we have also moved in that direction. So we have also succeeded there. And then right now, with the climate conference coming up in Glasgow next month, everyone starts talking about lifetime carbon emission from buildings. So we're no longer talking about the energy use in the building, or we still talk about energy use, but it's not only energy use in buildings. Now we start talking about lifetime carbon neutral buildings, and that's also a part of the active house principles. That's the third pillar in the active house principle, and I think we were a forerunner 10-12 years ago compared to where we are today.
Absolutely. If I look back, I think one of the biggest achievements of the alliance is probably the EPBD, the European Energy Performance in Buildings Directive, and the changes that were made there, not only about mentioning indoor climate in a directive about energy and human health. That was a first and an important step, because it's probably one of those recognitions that buildings are for people and not for energy. And the other issue or the other theme that has also come up is the focus on the dynamic building envelope that need to adapt for the circumstances, both the indoor and outdoor circumstances, the hot and the cold season, or the use of the building, or the number of inhabitants, and all of these things that you need to take into consideration have become much more qualified and much more data driven and much more detailed. And in that process, we haven't forgotten the user, which I think is also one of the important focus areas for the alliance. Absolutely.
And one of the things that I also remember from the period when we drafted the first specification and the technical documentation was that we always talked about being technology neutral. A lot of other labeling and organizations in the same area, they were setting specific requirement to certain components. It could be the wall, it could be the technical installations, it could be the windows. But we wanted to be technological neutral, so that all concepts or all solutions would fit into buildings as long as they were evaluated based on the active house principles. So we wanted to be technologically neutral at that time, and I think that was also something which we were criticized about it from certain areas. How can you make a building which is not meeting this specific amount of energy use inside the building? How can you talk about sustainability and then allow for certain materials? And how can you talk about indoor climate and then not talk about mechanical ventilation and so on? I think that was also something which was relatively new at the time.
Absolutely, and looking at the holistic impact of the building and performance of the building, not only during operation, but also to take a look at how do we construct and to some extent how do we demolish the building at the end of use. All of these things that have now become much more qualified. I don't know if that would have happened without the help of the Active House Alliance, but I think we have helped our industry and the built environment with a language and a structure that would otherwise have taken a very long time. Because if I go back and also look at some of the concerns that were driving us in Velux, I suppose one of our very early awakenings was that this is not something for a company or a single component to drive. This is something where everybody in the building industry have to work together. And this collaboration between different types of players in the building industry was at the time unique, I think, and it has been a major contributor to actually achieving what has been achieved over the years, and that along with I don't remember when we started awarding active houses, but it was, if I remember correctly, very early on that we focused not only on theory but also on practice, and that is an important part of balancing all the different elements and remembering that sooner or later it has to turn into a place where people live or work, or both in one way or the other. That's right.
Yeah, I think you're right in the sense of the value chain cooperation in the construction sector, that we had all on board from the beginning, and we had a good cooperation with the different research institutes who supported us greatly in the work that we did with the specifications. And we would not have been able to do it without having their support. But there was also a lot of companies which were involved in the early processes in setting the rules for the alliance, and I think that was really a strength. I would also like to mention one thing. I don't know how long time we have here, but I would definitely like to mention one thing, and that is that you were one of the main founders, and I recall that you worked with this project Soltag. You saw the ideas in that project, which is now at the office in Copenhagen, at the Velux office in Copenhagen. But you saw the idea, and when you saw that house, when it was tested the first time, you said, we need to buy this house and have it, and we need to show to the world around us that we can build nearly zero energy buildings already today. And that was back in 2006, I think, even before we started the Active House Alliance. But I think that was a project which we were also looking into as a reference, because it was a challenge to build like that at that time. Many told us that it was not energy efficient, it was not sufficient on the energy performance, but it was a carbon neutral house, and it had a tremendously good indoor climate. And I think you were the person who saw that before anyone else really did it, and I'm pleased that you took the decision to buy the house and then put it at the office in Copenhagen.
Yeah, well, I think I had my eyesight was helped quite a lot by another of our former colleagues, Torben Thyregod, who was running the Soltag project and to a very large extent putting his design efforts also into the house. But it's true that I thought that house was magnificent from the point in time, in the sense that it looked like a real house. It had all the normal functions. It was adapted to the market. It had this nearly zero energy performance in operation, and it had a lot of good thoughts in the way that it was built. Another aspect which it also inspired me, at least, was the fact that it was a standardized construction. It was an industrialized building process where the modules of the house were produced in a factory and transported to the site. And though that concept wasn't the right concept, I think it gave a lot of inspiration, and I can say I'm sorry that we weren't able to be joined by Tad Patura, who from Great Gulf, who has shown in Canada how to actually make that work with industrialized, standardized construction processes, which I think we will see even more in the future when we have to achieve full circularity sooner or later to make sure that houses take up fewer planets and leave more energy for other purposes than what we do today. So, but I mean, that was the kind of environment that we were into, was trying to be challenged and being challenged also by the Lars Kan Rasmussen, the owner of Velux, who came up with the model home challenge in around the COP15 in Copenhagen, trying to make these CO2 neutral houses living up to the regulation in 2020 and providing a comfortable setting for people was also an important part of being able to drive it as far as has been the case. But at the base of that, I think, is the energy and the commitment by all the different profiles, all the different people who have been working as part of the alliance and presenting active houses. And I will certainly look forward to see more and more houses being built, and hopefully also that the alliance and the certification will gain ground in a world where certifications will become and data-driven construction will become even more needed and required to be a player in the building industry. And I'm looking forward to see where that will take us.
I think we will in a few years' time, we will see that it is not kilowatt hour per square meter we will talk about CO2 per square meter. And if I should come with any kind of recommendations to the Active House Alliance, then it would be to be very much clear on what are the carbon emissions from the buildings that we are building, because that need to be low in the future. That need to be very low, and I think that could be a part which is for the future. And then
let me tell you here in between the two of us that as a matter of fact, it's one of the strategic projects that I am involved in these days, is trying to make low carbon residential construction on a completely different scale than where we have building regulations and requirements for buildings today. So
Yeah.
I think you are spot on that CO2 per square or CO2 equivalents per square meter will become the future language of the future currency of buildings rather than energy. I think you're right.
Yeah, and that's a part of the specification and the evaluation of buildings in the Active House Alliance. And I know what I'm saying now has been said quite often, but life is lived forward but understood backwards. And I have that sentence exactly on Active House Alliance, because I really didn't understand at that time why we should include environmental issues in the radar. I recall I had some discussions with Lone, among others, and she was one of the founders of having environmental parts included in the Active House specification, or the radar of the Active House. And at that time, I thought, okay, this is just an additional barrier or challenge for the industry that they need to fulfill. I really didn't support it at that time, I recall, but we took it in. And now today it's standard.
It's a good thing we did. Absolutely, yeah. And environment and planetary boundaries are inevitable components that we have to meet. And maybe for the future that could be one of the things to reach out towards. What are we doing about the different boundaries, and how do we address them when it comes to buildings? And I think you're right that the Active House principles are well suited to take that challenge. Certainly more suited than many other construction principles, or living principles, because it's not only about the construction; it's about how you use the building. Yeah.
But it's the same also with the health and the comfort in buildings. We were also a little bit early there, and today I think it has also become standard. At that time, I fully understood why we should do it. It was not the same as with the carbon, but at that time I fully understood why we should do it. But I think we were slightly before the time when we did it, and I think that it's very good that we have it now. So I really think that the Active House Alliance and the structure that the Active House Alliance has with those three principles, environment, indoor climate, and energy, that is the basis of how we should evaluate buildings in the future. So I really think that is a good momentum, upcoming momentum for the Alliance. I really believe that.
I certainly agree. There's definitely no, the vision hasn't been completed yet, and there are lots of potential in all three dimensions. So that's a wish for a lot of good achievements to all of you in that respect. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much to the two godfathers for joining in. It's true, it's a walk down memory lane, and I was actually also remembering a couple of things. It was quite astonishing to go back those years. A shout out to Tad, who sadly couldn't join us today because of another pressing appointment, but I think, like you have also said a couple of times, it's fair to mention that he has been a very important foundation or cornerstone also of starting the Alliance, with also other people. Bjarne Olesen was also part of it. But we thought there was a limit to how many Danish men should be in the Godfather session today. So thank you to Michael and to Kurt for taking us back in time. And thank you in particular for your visions and your persistence, and the very hard work and the seeds that you sowed so many years that actually is the result of where we are today. So thank you for that, and congratulations, not least to you on getting the ship afloat. And it's still floating, and it is doing well, and it has its 10 years birthday today. So great.
from a godfather to a godmother, thank you very much as well. If we were there at the start, you certainly took good care of the baby in the meantime. So.
It's still here. It's still with us. And yes, I should introduce myself properly to you in the audience. After saying thank you to Michael and Kurt, we'll move on to the next step in today's program that I had promised to introduce. My name is Lone Pfeiffer, and I am the current General Secretary of the Active House Alliance. I'm the second General Secretary of the Active House Alliance. Kurt Emil Eriksen, that you just heard, was the first one. I'm the second, and I will also be the last General Secretary, because this is definitely a team effort that we run in the Alliance. It's a huge partnership and stakeholders in many countries and globally around the world, which is the reason for the one thing I will veto as a General Secretary, namely to not longer be called a General Secretary formally from our next General Assembly. We've also discussed it internally a couple of times that this is a title that not only was quite important when we founded the Alliance and has been the first 10 years, but it doesn't really echo or mimic the situation as it is today, where it is a huge team effort and everything is done in partnerships. So we will discuss what is the proper title for me and the other board directors. I think of myself more as a playmaker, to make things happen and to put together the right people, as we are doing here today. And very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining in and watching. And we would like to actually talking about the people who make it happen, going from theory and on to practice. The national alliances that is when it hits the ground running in many cases. And we would like to take a round to a selection of the national alliances. And we would like to start with China, not least because you are quite late in the evening. I think it is about 7:30 p.m. in China, but thank you to all of you who are watching us from there. A couple of years ago, I think it's 4 years ago, we signed the agreement with the Active Architectural Committee of Active House China. So the chairman, the Secretary General from the AHAC, Mr. Guo Jianling, will, on behalf of the AHC, make a greeting for you. Please watch.
And every Active House lovers, good afternoon. Today is a big day. It's a special day and it's a happy day. It's the 10 years anniversary day for Active House. Please allow me to use the opportunity to present my warmest greetings to Active House Alliance. Congratulations for all the achievements you made during the past 10 years. Okay, let's move on slides to start my presentation. Actually, Active House was introduced into China is 2015. In that time, somebody flew from Denmark, from Europe, into China. And they made a signature to present, to promise Active House is a great thing. They made their presentation in front of 100 persons, sometimes it's 1,000 of audience. And we did some investigations to ask architects, engineers, and end users of building. Do you know Active House? Do you like Active House? And also, we bring some architects, bring some clients to travel abroad to sign some agreements with architects, with several different organizations. And then finally, in December of 2017, we made a decision. We established Active House Academic Committee of China. During the past 4 years, we made some achievements. For example, we combined a kind of standards, we call it assessment standard for Active House. That is a thing cover whole China. And we successfully verified 10 projects in China of Active House. And please note this slide. We also, from last year and this year, we have a Chinese Active House award competition. We collected something like 400 projects. We selected some winners, and we have the news, we have the information spread out. We also hold some training classes. During the 4 years, about 324 persons to be identified the AHAP. We call it Active House Professional Accreditations. And of course, every year we hold something like 20, 30 Active House Symposium and seminars. And also, we hold a kind of cyber class. We invited something like 400 teachers all about the world, from Japan, from Denmark, from Italy, and of course, most of them from China. What is our plan for tomorrow? Of the year of next step, we are going to continue to verify Active House projects, 15 plus every year. We are going to continue the Active House Award competition. We are going to train AHAP 100 more per year. We are going to do the Active House promotion, and we are going to establish Active House organizations, something like Active House Academy of Research, Active House Lab, Active House Industry Alliance. Then they're part of our plan. Okay, I will end my presentation. Which Active House Alliance develops well, which Active House has a bright future and to benefit the life and the planet. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much to Active House in China. Thank you to Guo, and thank you to the very many great colleagues working on this. Also, in particular, making it as part of the legislations is very impressive. A very special thank you to Mr. Zhong, who has been leading the alliance within the Architectural Society of China along this way and to this very successful path. It is indeed impressive to see what you have accomplished. Part of the start of this success was trainings in Active House, and there was one change agent who I would like to pass on to next, representing the National Alliance in Ukraine, namely Mr. Alexander Kusharavi, who has indeed been part of the journey for very, very many years, I think, almost from the beginning, but you will come back to that, Alexander. And you also traveled to China to do one of the very first courses there on the Active House specifications. So over to Active House Ukraine, Alexander.
Thank you so much. And I'm really impressed about the results in China. Nevertheless, I would like to share our experience in Ukraine, how we implement our strategy, general strategy of the Active House locally. So I'll share my screen and see some presentation and beautiful images. Because firstly, I'm an architect. I like beautiful architecture and images. So, dear all, it's my pleasure to share our experience how we develop Active House locally. And sorry. And we have, of course, a strategy in Ukraine, and this strategy is based on sustainable development goals. And we are trying to solve the problems when we are creating our architecture. And, you know, if you follow Active House principles, you can solve 11 problems from 17 of sustainable development goals. And it's a goal. Our goal, it's a main mission of local alliance and international. Because we need resultive solutions for new challenges of new epoch of sustainism. Yes, now we are really live in new epoch of sustainism, and we are really there already. Sorry. The first Active House in Ukraine exists. I'm an author of this project, and it helps me a lot to share the vision and show the principles on local market. We have 3 directions of sharing our values. First of all, it's events. There is were events before pandemic time, and I'm really miss this time because now we all of you and of course me feel lack of communication and people energy. For this reason, it was really a very effective solution how to communicate with people and share their values. I'm very grateful to all my European colleagues who found an opportunity to join us in Kyiv in 2018 and gathered thousands of people, and joined also us in Lviv in 2019 in Ukraine, where we also organized first national Active House competition among local architects. The second direction is, of course, education, and we do a lot in in education, online, offline, inside Ukraine, outside Ukraine, before pandemic, after pandemic, and we have a result because on Ukrainian example, I can tell you that it works. And as for me, Active House is the most simple way for architects to follow sustainable architecture. Every year, every competition, you can see Ukrainian projects, shortlisted projects in during Active House Awards, or even we can see winners. So 2018, in 2019, we gathered 13 projects in Ukraine for national contest, and 4 of them were shortlisted on international level in Canada, and 1 of them won the prize. So I'm very, how to say, happy about this. And today, 2021, we see Ukrainian project also in as shortlisted project in the competition, and we know about this a little bit later today because we have a special blog for this. And the third main direction is, of course, realizations. It's buildings. I don't have time to show you all Active House buildings in Ukraine. I'd like to pay your attention only for this one because it's renovation in Kyiv. And it's so important for so many countries because it's renovation. How to update, how to renovate our existing buildings by sustainable way. And we have some experience. You know, you will know about these projects, more next Active House Awards, next Active House Symposium in 2022. I will do this. So because we are under construction now, and it's almost done, and I hope in 2022 it will be we will finish everything, and it's possible to submit to the awards. And it's very important project also because it's a case project, example projects for educational process, for European education. And I have now a chance to invite you to Active House Summer School 2022. We did first Active House Autumn Schools in 2019. Yes, 19, before pandemic time, in Italian Alps, in collaboration with Active House Italy, with support of International Active House Alliance. And it's my lovely format of education, because it's edutainment, education and entertainment. So we will have 8 really inspiration days. Of course, education, not only working in the Alps. Also, we will include visiting the real Active House in Italy, and building plots, Active House, which are in process, because it's very important to show you the process how to build Active House, because we need to we should know how to design Active Houses, build it, and how to maintain them, how to live in them. Of course, local Italian culture, cuisine, people, and believe me, diploma inauguration in medieval castle will impress you a lot. So use this chance also. And it's my, how to say, the resume of my speech. As Buckminster Fuller said, do more with less. And I would like to add our new green universe. So thank you so much for your attention. I hope to see you soon, better in Italian Alps.
Thank you very much, Alexander. That is really an invitation to see you next time in the Italian Alps with lovely people and great views and nice cuisine, and not least the first course that you will be running in the Specifications 3.0, correct? Yes. So you have been an instrumental part of the Active House Specifications 3.0, along with Günther, who will follow and present the Italian Alliance as well. Thank you for all your hard and dedicated work, impressive events that you have ran in Ukraine. I was happy to be part of that. Talking about impressive events, I would like to thank you, Alexander, and move on to Canada, who held the last Active House Symposium that we have had, because 2020 were, for obvious reasons, not happening, and now this year we had the anniversary. So Canada, we were in Toronto, even in something called Evergreen. So that was a fantastic opportunity to have the Active House Alliance in the redundant brickworks, which was organized by the National Canadian Alliance, which I think is the first national alliance actually to be founded. So we are going back to the cradle and checking on how the baby is, how's the baby doing. And with us from Canada, very early morning, we have Russell Ibbotson, and also Sean Joffe will be joining us here. Please, over to you, Russell.
Thank you, Lona. Sean was having some technical difficulties, so I'll be speaking on behalf of both of us. And I'd like to start by saying congratulations. 10 years is a very special anniversary, and it takes a lot of energy and time to build and maintain an alliance like Active House. And we want to acknowledge that all of those who have contributed to getting the Active House to where it is today. And those are the people who worked on the board and the steering committee, all the subcommittees over the years, the award juries. We can't forget about the hard work and the many hours and late nights in some cases that they've put in to helping us celebrate the special active house projects around the world, the symposium committees. I have participated in this. There's a lot of work that comes into hosting an event of this scale, and it was a fabulous experience when we were last together in Canada. The education, we just had Alex speak about some of the work that he's contributed to, and there's lots more work to be done there. And of course, supporting the projects and helping project teams work towards labeling Active House. And I think a lot of the conversation so far this morning has really highlighted the forward thinking that this group has had, and the sense that the rest of the world is catching up, but also this sense that we've got a good idea of where we need to go, and we're in a position where we can continue to be leaders. I'd also briefly like to just acknowledge all the companies and managers that have supported us volunteers. Sean and I would like to put a little nod out to Nels Moxness and Tad Patira. Without their support and encouragement, we wouldn't have been able to do what we've done so far in Canada. So we thank them. And finally, to Kurt and to Lona, who have carried the torch and inspired us to support Active House. Without your leadership, we would not be here today. Now, with the Active House, we hosted back in 2019, we hosted the 7th Symposium, the first symposium in North America. And it was a great event. It was the last time I saw many of you in person, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you again in person. And in Canada, we've had demonstration projects, and Great Golf has taken the leadership. And thank you, Lona, for mentioning Tad, and Michael for mentioning Tad earlier, because he's really been our guiding light on this side of the Atlantic Ocean when it comes to Active House. And this first project was inaugurated in 2013. This was the first Canadian Active House in Thorold. And it was well celebrated. And I look, and my wife and daughter were in this photo here. And my daughter is almost 3 there. She's now almost 12. So this is, for me, Active House is also a little bit of a time log with my family, because we got to live in this house. This project took place in 2016, the second Active House in Canada, the first labeled Active House in the world. It was a lovely celebration to have this house in Canada, and my family was lucky enough to do a homestay here for 6 months and share the experience and all the wonderful time that we had in this house. And we've had a lot of opportunities to share that. Lona, you mentioned, and I don't have a slide in there, but in 2014, so in between these two houses, is when the Active House Alliance for Canada came into play. So that's 7 years ago now that we've had that. And now we have the next demonstration house, and this house is just north of Toronto in Bradford. And this house is also special. All these houses that Great Golf has led, and I'll say Great Golf has led, but there's a number of companies that have supported the development of this. Often I fear that it looks like it's Velux and Great Golf that's doing the majority of the work in Canada, but I have to say we have a lot of friends helping us out. And they're not all able to participate today, but there's a lot of people that have helped us here. And with this house, Great Golf has gotten brought the program another step closer to commercialization. This has become our focus as an alliance in Canada. And the last slide I'll share as I speak about it is that we've done a lot of demonstration projects around the world. And what we're identifying in Canada is that there's an opportunity. For all the good things we've talked about, the leadership that Active House has shown and the direction of where we can take it, there's an opportunity to engage more professional home builders. There's an opportunity to engage more architects and enable them to create more active houses, to improve our buildings for people and planet. And in Canada, we see this as an opportunity. We have to make a couple of tweaks to North Americanize some of the approaches and make sure that it's in line with what the market will be able to do here. And we're confident we're on the right path for this. And we're confident that the Active House Canada program is going to grow substantially in the near future. So all this is building off of all the lovely work that many of you on today's meeting have done. So I'll end again by saying congratulations. Thank you very much for everyone's effort, and thank you for allowing us to participate in today's event.
Thank you, Russell, and also Sean, even if you could not make yourself visible, and to Tad and Nels and all the very good people that have worked hard for this in Canada. Aretha and many of the colleagues also from Great Gulf. I know how much work you have put in also into making the symposium in 2019. It was spectacular, and it means that the shoes to fill for the next year's symposium in Holland, those shoes are pretty big, but I also know they have taken up the challenge. So thank you to making also the push for putting it to the market, because that is, of course, important. One thing is to do it once and prove it and demonstrate it and make a needle pin example. But if we want to do a major difference to the planet, which we do, we also need to scale it and make it available in the market. And with your third labeled Active House coming out now, I think you are truly showing the way. So thank you for that to all of you in Canada.
Thank you, Lona.
And leading the way, speaking of that, we will go to the Italian Alps as the next part. Actually, the border between, I think it's fair to say, Austria and Italy. You speak Italian, you speak German, you speak English. It's a great pleasure to welcome Günther Gantiola, who is a true enthusiast and soul of sustainability in buildings. And I think all of your career and your agency as an engineer, you have worked not only with your own office, but also further than that, to advancing the agenda of sustainable buildings. And how can we engineer and architecture them to be the best possible version, with always the best possible solution for the humans? You always have an eye to that. So it's a great pleasure to welcome you. And you have founded the Active House Italy Alliance, along with a number of great colleagues. And you have also been leading the way within the specifications development, and not least the tools, because you are a solid engineer. So very good to have you on board. Günther, over to you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much. And yeah, I mean, 10 years of Active House, a huge journey, but also I this year want to show you only project that we are still doing now and not from the past, because I think it's important to show also it was a hard time for all of us, COVID time, 2 years, but COVID didn't stop us, so we continued. We love to work about the Active House buildings we do, and for that I want to show you only projects that are ongoing this year. And probably for starting, it would be also interesting for the audition to know who we are, because Active House Italy was founded really from the Passive House Institute Italy. And this is a strange combination. And I know that in many countries of the world, they are a little bit one against the other, but there is no reason for that. And as proof of this concept, I will show you that really we founded Active House. We knew that we have to extend the protocol of only energy. Energy is not the only one, and with Active House we found the right protocol to do better buildings. So I will show you some of the projects we are doing this year, and these are all building in construction. So you see here renderings, but all of them are in construction this year. Some of them will be finished for the spring and surely will be then presented for the award next year, but not all of them, because you see also a huge quarters like these 5 buildings. We will need some years to terminate all of them. The 3 buildings of Montanari, the new 3 buildings of Giardino del Gemme, will finish all next year, so this will surely be a request for the award. And then we have a lot of other buildings. They are not the only one, but these 5 projects are really important for us because they take us a step further to improve our concept and our work. What are we doing in the research matter? We are working a lot on the Active House Pro protocol in Italy. because we had some issues in real estate project in Italy, mainly in the area of Rome, Firenze, Florence, and Milan, where international investors asked for a lead or for BREEAM to be accepted for the investment. And the difference between Active House and between these other protocols is mainly the commissioning. So we're doing a lot of work to make a variant of Active House called Active House Pro, where we could be accepted in the future for this real estate investment funds. So this is one of our whole projects here with the Montanari, which is in construction. You can see the first building is nearly finished, and the other two buildings on the right side will be finished in spring. And then also we complete the Active House Pro validation process and present it to the audition next year. Another project is the well or health variant of Active House, because we can see that really in COVID time, there was a huge request of healthy buildings. But then there are also laws, I remember next year, that pushed really towards well-being and not so much only to health, because health is also many times concentrated to chemical pollutions and so on. But when we talk about well-being, then it's much more. And I really agree with Lorne that we should put to well-being and not so much only to health. So we are starting with this project of Marco Cimini. It's in the south of Italy, a nice project we're studying. It's also in construction now. They're well active protocol of how we could define something like that, but always in a simplified method, because this is our strong part. Not a huge bureaucracy, but simplified methodology to improve the buildings. We are coming now to another really interesting process in the Active House Italy Association. We found this year Active House Agency, because when there was a project or more important project, international project, we didn't have really the time and the energy between our members to challenge the projects. So we founded now the Active House Agency, and the first project we try to change this house, these folding houses, which is done mainly for areas with catastrophes like earthquakes, where have many buildings destructions, and so you can go there, and in really short time you have new buildings there for the people. But they should also have some minimum quality, and for that we try now to transform these buildings in real active houses. Last thing, or one of nearly the last slide, is the international work. We did also a lot of international work this year. First one was the test verifier course for the version 3 protocol in June this year, together with Alexander and Fraunhofer Institute. It was really a huge work to do, but I think we did it well at the end. And second point was support generally the Fraunhofer team, which developed the new radar tool to improve it, to make it really how we want to use it, because it's one, how the engineer, developer of the software want to do it, but another thing, how we did it for the real working market. So this was really also a nice collaboration. And also for this, the last thing was that we did develop the worldwide DT values for the layer calculations, because we had really these missing values for the rest of the world. Because now in version 3, the method of doing the daylight calculations depends on DT factors, and we had only European values. So now you see we have developed them for the whole world and can do the same calculation all over the world. Last thing, but we will hear more of this project, I think, in the next block of the today meeting, is also a technical assistance for the US group. And it was really so nice work to do with the guys in the American United States to develop the radar for this building in New York. So yeah, I finished, and hope it was interesting for the audition. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much, Günther, and congratulations to you for not only being a crucial and essential part of founding the Italian Active House Alliance, but you have also been to China to do some of the fundamental trainings, and now you have actually also been a key part of establishing the US alliance that we will hear more about later today. So yes, CO2 doesn't know any borders. People and planet is not depending on national borders. It really goes across, and you are, if any, very proud proof of that. So thank you for all your work and great agency. So we would like to go to talking about looking into the future, like the path that you took very much, Günther. We would also like to point towards the future, namely to Holland, who will, as mentioned earlier, be the hosts of the Symposium, the International Symposium in 2022, finally coming to Holland. Who has actually been established as an alliance just after Canada. I'm not sure who wins the race there, but you can probably clear it up. Bas, I'm happy to pass on to you. You're a board member of the International Alliance, but also in the National Alliance. Please, Bas, welcome.
Thank you. My camera seems to be very slow. I hope my sound is unaffected.
It is.
Okay, good. I will share my screen. To answer your question or your remark, Lone, thank you for having me. And the Dutch Alliance was established in 2013. So I think Canada beat us to it by about a year. I am on the sideline and now more at the forefront, involved with the Active House Alliance almost since the beginning. I'm glad to say that we have been quite successful over the past few years. We have currently 4 partner meetings, and the past year, of course, was a little bit difficult around the whole COVID pandemic. But of the 14 partners that we currently have, 5 of them were added or came with the alliance, the Dutch Alliance, over the past year and a half. So the interest is certainly there, and we are currently growing. I actually this week I received another email from a person I spoke recently, and said, well, this very much suits our vision of how we should build. This meets our values of energy performance, of energy consuming buildings, but also especially the health and the well-being part. So we're quite becoming more and more popular, and increasing our member count. The project that we have in the Netherlands are actually quite diverse. Of course, we have the single family dwellings, but also one of the earliest examples, maybe even predating the Dutch Alliance, is a renovation project of a housing corporation where there were 10 homes being renovated, and 5 of them how they always did it, and then another 5 they sort of upgraded to the Active House vision to see how that would perform relative to the other regular renovation. Also, one of the projects here is an apartment building for people with they don't really have disabilities, but they have they need extra assistance, or they have sort of supported living conditions, and they need some people with special needs. So also there is a whole complex of buildings, and all of the buildings need to be renovated, and the owners and the caretakers, they decided to have their complete new building stock based on the Active House vision because of the extra wellness that they would offer to their inhabitants. In the Netherlands, we have, I think, quite uniquely one of the Active House that actually won an award. Incidentally, it was my own building, my own house, but I logged the whole process of developing an Active House, and it is now well, publicly available to anyone who's interested, and it actually is quite popular amongst people who are interested in active house. The National Alliance has been quite active in contributing to the active house guidelines and also the specifications from the first version to the most recent one. And we have Dutch versions available, because even though almost everyone in the Netherlands speaks English, practice it means that most people will still prefer to have the specifications in their own language. We have a 10-step plan to create or design an active house. And we are currently working on a brochure, and maybe after that a full-on publication on how to make active house the proper vision for renovation cases, especially since in the Netherlands we have almost 8 million buildings that of which 7 million are dwellings that will be taken off natural gas. In the Netherlands we have a lot of natural gas that we use for heating buildings. It has been so over the last, I don't know, 50 years or so, but because of climate change we will all be they will all be taken off gas, and we need to have alternative means of heating. So there's a huge transition towards renovation and energy performance, and there is a risk that the indoor environment and well-being of people will be overlooked because they're only focusing on energy performance and getting rid of natural gas. So we try to make active house sort of the de facto standard, that if corporations that have millions of homes in their care, to make active house sort of the de facto standard for improving and renovating their building stock. And that is something that we are nowhere near yet, but we are certainly working towards that as our sort of goal for the upcoming years. And I would like to finish off with the Active House Symposium in 2022. Alon already gave a short introduction. Because of COVID, we had to postpone the symposium twice, but now it will be in Rotterdam on the 13th of April. The International Active House Symposium. There will be the award ceremony. There will be many interesting speakers. There will be workshops on how to use the Active House tool. There will be explanation, parallel sessions on the Active House specifications. There will be many case examples, and of course very interesting keynote speakers. There is a website that is online where you can sort of register to have to show your interest in participating, and I think if you leave your credentials, then you might even get a discount. But that is for now my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Bas, for your presentation. And also, I would like to thank you for all the hard work that you put in, not only in the board, where you're very active, but also in the work with the specifications 3.0. Anybody knows who's been working with specifications in the built environment that opening those discussions is a bit like opening a can of worms, with an English expression. And you surely took that onto you and put in a huge amount of work, and it has turned into a very complete specification set, which is now for all building types, and even with a benchmark for how to achieve a label. And that has then been able to form the podium or the platform for the Active House Radar tool, which is now online. More about that later. So thank you very much to you, Bas, for your presentation. See you on 13th of April 22 in Rotterdam.
Yes, you will.
We'll be there, or be square. And that will conclude our trip around the world for talking to some of the alliances. It has been 5 alliances. Not all have been represented. There was also the Danish alliance that has gotten a new number, so to say. They had dissolved themselves in the realization that their goals were achieved. And then there is the German alliance, which has lost its phone. But that is what it's like, you know. The international alliance is 10 years old today, and has gotten different national alliances and babies, and sometimes some of the kids lose their phone. But we have new alliances forming. We will come back to that. US, Romania, and more to come. Now we will break for 5 minutes before we see you back here at 14:25 with the award session, which will be led by one of the great personas in the International House Alliance, Active House Alliance, namely Professor Marco Imperadori, who is the energy powerhouse on research and academics, and not least the awards. So thank you for now for listening in, and see you back here in 5 minutes for the awards announcement. Thank you.